Howdy, and welcome to the Lost Rider Podcast. It's an honor and a privilege to address you in the capacity of an interviewer, reporter, and media member. Too many modern media outlets have forgone the integrity and responsibility required of credible information sources. What you will receive here are straightforward discussions with legislators, agency leaders, biologists, engineers, doctors, and countless other experts that have the answers to questions often circulated as kitchen table issues. The title Lost Rider may be thought of literally as well as in the metaphorical sense. While there has been the instance that I was momentarily a little turned around at night in a wilderness area, the idea of being a lost rider in life, well, that fits most folks at some time. These renderings are coming to you in the form of the 25-year-old radio program, The News from the Camp House. It still airs every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. Central Time on KULM 98.3 FM out of Columbus, Texas. The original intent was to relate outdoor topics to the general public. Immediately, it was found that all issues are relatable to the outdoors and that people are people. They all play a role and they all have a vested interest. It's this program's desire to answer common questions about how the world works, how it will operate in the future, and what's the holdup? So please listen, enjoy, and never hesitate to contact us with more questions and feedback. Good morning and welcome to this weekend's edition of News from the Camp House Listening Post of the Texas Sportsman Association. This is Herman Brune, and this week's edition is also brought to us by the Shaw's Bend Social Club, the country club for folks who don't have a country club. All right, tell you what, here this weekend with a special guest, somebody everybody here knows, Larry Weishuhn. And going to visit with Larry a little bit and see what's going on in the rest of the world. Larry, how you doing this morning?
Herman, I'm doing actually great. I'll tell you what, we're getting a little moisture. Life is good. Got a little cool spell coming our way. And I can't wait for it to get here because I love colder weather and I love wet weather. And I wish we had more of it down in our part of the country.
It's as good as long as you got a warm place to get out of it.
Yeah, you're right. But, there's always a warm campfire or fireplace somewhere that you can get away from things for just a little bit. And those are much appreciated, I'll tell you.
Yeah. All right. I did not get to go to the Dallas Safari Club show. Now, you're a big part of that. And tell these folks your role with Dallas Safari Club as well as Texas Wildlife Association. You've had a lot to do with all those things through the year. Let folks know what you've been doing.
Well, let's start with the Texas Wildlife Association. We're now in our 30s. Well, we formed it in 1985, so that's 38 years that we're coming up to. And I was one of the three co-founders on that. Got a call one morning from a guy named David Palmer. He was assistant director of law enforcement at that time. He said, Larry, there's a problem going on here that we need for you to come to Austin and see if you can't help us make some changes up here. And that's really kind of where it started from, is with a call from a game warden. We got there, and it was Murphy Ray and Gary Machen and I, and we knew the director of wildlife at the time, and he said, guys, don't have any time to spend time with you right now. And he sent us to room 232 at the no-name building there on the south side of Austin, and room 232 happened to be a broom closet. So he showed up a little bit later on and said, guys, y'all aren't going to make any difference no matter what you say. Well, that was the absolute perfect thing to be told. And we went back and we called 50 different landowners, met at the Wild Hilton at the time in Kerrville, and farmed TWA. And TWA over the years has just grown tremendously to include so many different facets, particularly in terms of education and the brigades. And the list goes on and on and on of what TWA does and has done in the last several years and kind of where they're going to. And of course, now they got a really nice new building there between San Marcos and New Braunfels called the David Langford Building, and appropriately so. David was long one of our executive directors at TWA and did a fantastic job and rightfully deserved to be named that particular facility be named after him. So a lot of good things going on. We're coming up this year, I think in the middle part of July will be, as I mentioned, our 38th convention held there in the northern part of San Antonio. And if people want to learn more about TWA, they can go to www.texas-wildlife.org. And if you love the outdoors and you're from Texas, or even if you have interest in Texas and you're not from Texas, you really need to be a member there. It started out as kind of a landowner sportsman organization, and it has grown to a tremendous organization that carries a tremendous amount of weight in terms of things dealing with wildlife, water, land in the state of Texas.
All right. Well, okay, yeah, that's a great thing about these organizations. What was the initial controversy?
The initial controversy is that the director of wildlife that they had that time was a great biologist, but he didn't get along really well with landowners, and he was kind of trying to diminish the role of landowners as far as wildlife is concerned in the state of Texas. And that was both Murphy and I had worked as technical assistance biologists in South Texas for the TPWD, and he and I, and of course Gary Machen, being a landowner and an outdoors person, realized that, hey, if you're going to have wildlife in the state of Texas, you better have the cooperation of the landowners, since we're, 98% right. privately owned. So that was kind of the basis of it to start everything off.
It's great. And, it's TWA, I remember with the Texas Sportsman Association, as soon as they got the 13-inch thing going, board of directors over there sat around and go, okay, well, what do we do next? And, a few of those guys were a little lost because that was their main purpose in life.
Right.
And, there's so much to do that it's mind-boggling how much, once you get into it and you just say, well, we're a conservation organization, we're interested in all the wildlife and all the conservation, there's so much to do that all of a sudden it takes a lot of people.
It takes a lot of people, and of course it takes people in conservation costs. So with the programs that we have going on with the schools and all those kind of things, we've got great support from landowners, from sportsmen across the state of Texas, and including companies outside of Texas who greatly support what we do here. And as a result of that, it's just like the Texas Youth Program, Texas Youth Hunters Program. We have now taken somewhere in excess of 80,000 people hunting, most of them on their first hunt, and that was created through the Texas Wildlife Association. They've got a trunk program that they work with schools, which was part of the Wildlife Legacy program that we have set up to provide materials of all different kinds of things relative to the land, water, and wildlife, and the importance of private land ownership in all this to visit with about the kids in school. And of course, they've got the brigade program too, which is there's a buckskin brigade and a bobwhite brigade, and I think there's some others now as well too.
Oh, yeah.
And all those are literally part of TWA, and we're started through TWA and continue to gain the support of a lot of folks across the nation, quite frankly.
All right, the buckskin brigades, that's where we're headed over there with the Texas Outdoor Riders.
I thought that was the case.
Natalie Wolf, the executive director over there, we're visiting with her and the Texas Outdoor Riders Association, trying to, we're trying to jazz up our youth riding program. And one of the ways of doing that, to get more participation and to get more get our message out more, and to get the North American wildlife model, as more into people's focus, more in their mind, showing it to these kids, getting them to talking about it. And so through the Texas Outdoor Riders Association, we have our youth riding program, and we're talking to Miss Natalie about trying to, work with the brigades and implement our youth riding program with the brigades, and give these kiddos some opportunities to win some prizes and do a little riding, and introduce them to some of these other, like that there is a Texas Outdoor Writers Association.
Exactly. TWA has been very instrumental in so many different things over the years, and will continue to play even a greater part in wildlife and land as we move into more of an urban situation compared to a semi-rural situation that we've been in the past. But and you mentioned DSC. I get tickled a lot of times. People say Dallas Safari Club, and to a lot of folks it denotes, well, you got to go to Africa to be part of the Dallas Safari Club. And nothing could be farther from the truth. We have got a considerable number of members. There's only really a small part of the membership that's ever been to Africa or probably even been out of the state of Texas. And a lot of times when somebody says, well, what does DSC stand for, which we tend to use more so than Dallas Safari Club, and depending on the crowd that I'm visiting with, it's the Dallas Squirrel Hunters Association, because it's a membership organization that is extremely strong in terms of conservation, education, and hunter advocacy, not only here in North America but also abroad. And the reason we do some of the things abroad is so that we can circumvent problems that are coming from abroad, that like some of the things that are going on in Africa right now, what's happening there, to keep that from happening here in North America. It's a great organization. I've been involved with them since about 1987 or so, and for the last many years I've served as an ambassador for DSC in a lot of different respects, whether it's from a speaking position, whether it's from a biologist position, whether it's been from a TV position, or even radio that we've done a long time, or podcasting, or any of those other kind of things. I've kind of been appointed over the years to be their ambassador, and so anything that I have, or any time I have the opportunity to talk about some of the things that they do, I'm certainly going to do so. And again, it comes down to like TWA to me. If you're going to be somebody that loves the outdoors, and you need to be a member of TWA if you live in Texas, and even if you don't. And if you really love the outdoors, you love hunting, you love fishing, and you love conservation, and you realize how important those things are to the perpetuation of habitat and wildlife, and then you really ought to be a member of DSC as well too. And there's several levels of membership at which you can join. We talked a little. You asked about the convention. This was our 41st convention. It was held at K. Bailey Hutchinson Center. Usually the first weekend after the first. Unless the 1st of January happens to fall during that weekend, but it's usually the first weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of January. And this year, I think the total numbers that were there, and the interesting thing about it was this year, whenever you registered, you got a badge, so that, and every time you went in and out of the hall, you were checked. There was a little QR code, and from that we were able to determine the exact number of attendees, and to where they weren't doubled up, kind of thing. I may have gone in and out of that building 10 times. But I was only registered one time, and from the results that I recall, it's somewhere between 34,000 and 38,000 people that were there. Cool. About 1,800 booths. There were 22 miles of aisles if you wanted to walk every one of the aisles while you were there.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break and thank the folks who let us come on here every Saturday morning. We'll be right back. Thank goodness for all the great sponsors we have here at News from the Camp House. H-E-B Food Stores. That's Stephen Tice at H-E-B. He helps me. He helps the community. He's a great man. I'm so thankful H-E-B loosened him up, lets him go around and sponsor a few things. H-E-B's got all your food needs. It's the greatest food store we got here in Columbus. Thank goodness for H-E-B. First State Bank. You go over to the First State Bank, they'll take care of all your loans, all your deposits, your savings, anything you need. Bunch of great hometown people over there. You got Celia Tobias, John Pollock. Everybody over there is looking out for you. Miss Barbara Barta. It's a great bunch of folks at the First State Bank is also sponsoring News from the Camp House. First State Bank takes care of all my business. Baumgart Agency, Susan Baumgart at the Baumgart Agencies, her and Germania. She told me to plug Germania. Germania is a insurance that she likes everybody to know about. The Baumgart Agencies. Miss Susan and I are classmates. Being classmates, she got me out of high school, sat right beside her, put us in alphabetical order where I could copy. And Susan Baumgart over at the Baumgart Agency, taking care of all your insurance needs. Lyco Realty Lyco Realty, one of the original sponsors of News from the Camp House. Lyco Realty, the oldest real estate company in the county, and for the last 3 years voted the favorite realtor in the county. Lyco Realty, that's Miss Kimberly Johnson. That's Crockett's granddaughter. More kinfolks and classmates and great people from Colorado County. People from Colorado County helping people from Colorado County. That's great. Oh, thank goodness for all these wonderful people come to me want to be sponsors for News from the Camp House. Good morning and welcome to the second half of this week's News from the Camp House listening post of the Texas Sportsman's Association. This is Herman Brune. We're here this morning, Larry Weishuhn. We're sitting here talking about all kind of stuff, but we're in the show season, and DSC is one of the first shows to kick it off. Larry's big in DSC. I got to go to the SHOT Show. We talked to the National Shooting Sports Foundation a couple weeks ago, and here with Larry this morning talking about DSC show. And all right, you just said there's, good God, 22 miles of aisles at this thing and 1,800 vendors. That rivals the SHOT Show. I mean, when you're talking about Dallas Safari Club show in Dallas, and then the SHOT Show in Vegas, the SHOT Show had 2,500 vendors, but that's a national show. That is, good Lord. But this is the show season. We also did a program where we were joking about it because of this omnivariant that's running around, and everybody said, to hell with it, it's show season.
You know what? It's so good to be back. You know, we missed a couple of shows because of COVID and all those kind of things, but to be back to see people face to face. And, you know, it's just like doing a Zoom meeting or something like that where you're talking on a phone. I've got a couple meetings coming up that, by golly, I'm going to have to drive all day to get there, but I want to be there because I want to see people's faces kind of thing. But it is the show season. And we just had the Houston Safari Club as well, too. The Great Western Show is about to happen up in Utah. I think we may be right on the cusp of what used to be the Harrisburg Show that the NRA puts on up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Okay. And I used to do that show, and there'd be 1 million visitors through that thing in 10 days. So somebody says, well, the outdoors isn't all that big, talking about the industry or the number of people. Yes, it is. And you and I, before we started talking on the radio this morning, talked a little bit about what's going on as far as hunters and fishermen across the nation. Mm-hmm. And because of probably COVID as much as anything, the increases have been tremendous in terms of the number of new hunters and new fishermen and the retaining of those people. I think people finally realized when COVID hit that food doesn't necessarily come from the grocery store. It comes from somewhere else. And along the way, these same folks realize that, hey, there's all kinds of food available in the outdoors, and it's available to have fun catching or taking it while you're doing it. And that way you have a little bit better idea of what kind of fish you're eating, what kind of meat you're eating, you know, whether it's birds or whether it's ducks, geese, quail, pheasants, you know, turkeys, name them, or white-tailed deer or mule deer or elk or moose or even black bear and even wild hogs to some extent. So it's been kind of a turnaround as of late. We're starting to see more and more people getting interested in hunting and fishing. And another part of that is we're seeing more and more ladies becoming interested in hunting and fishing. And to me, that's fantastic because I feel like the saving of hunting and fishing in the outdoors really is going to come down to the ladies these days. Because if you can get a woman involved, she's going to bring her kids outdoors, and if she's got a husband, she's going to drag her husband out. And I don't know that I've ever been around a lady that has not been into hunting in the past, but when introduced to hunting or being around hunters and being out in the field and seeing how things go, that almost everyone I've ever seen has become a big convert to becoming a hunter or a fisherman, or a fisher lady, I guess I should say.
They're bloodthirsty. I think it's a little scary how damn bloodthirsty they are.
You know, I get tickled a lot of times. I used to do a seminar that says never take a woman hunting, and I always loved the ladies that showed up because they'd come up and they had a bee in their bonnet and they were mad. And then when I tell them why, I'd always, you know, they drag somebody with them. And my deal was, I said, men, if you've got a lady, a girlfriend, wife, mistress, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, whatever, and you got an ego, don't ever take them hunting because they're going to outshoot you and out-hunt you. because they are natural-born killers.
Yeah.
I mean, I've taken a lot of guys out on deer hunts and put a big old buck out in front of them, and all of a sudden they're looking, and you can hear the heart. You can see the heartbeat increasing. You hear the heavy breathing. And they point the rifle in one direction and at the deer before they pull the trigger. But when they pull the trigger, they've closed their eyes and they're about 20 degrees off to the right. You know, like, I get him. No, you missed. You put that same big buck out in front of a lady, and you go, "Ma'am, that's a good one right there." And she goes, "That one that got all that pretty stuff." "Yes, ma'am. Honestly, yes, that's one." Rifle goes up, dead still. Trigger goes off. Bam, deer drops. Yeah. You know, no sign of remorse, no excitement or anything until they start walking to where the animal is, and then all of a sudden, as they get closer, their voice goes, "Oh my God!" They're talking at such a high-pitched voice that I can't even understand them, kind of thing. So, women. And the female of the human species, I guess it should say, is truly a natural-born killer.
I'm going to soften that up a little bit. My daughter's grandmother was from, she was Norwegian, by way of London, by way of Chicago, by way of Milwaukee, by way of Dallas, and wound up in Shaw's Bend one Christmas. And her daughter said something to me about putting some meat in the freezer on Christmas Eve. And I picked up my 06 and went down to the river bottom. And I came back and I hung something up. And it was cold enough it could, let it hang at night. And she told me later on, she said, I couldn't be out there with you. She said, but do you know how damn cool and sexy that is? that my daughter told you she needed meat and you just picked up a gun and went and got it. She goes, man, she goes, she said, that kind of did it for me. And I went, well, okay, so there's some hope for this world,
There is hope for this world, you're right. To me, in a perfect utopian hunting, fishing world, half the license would be sold to men and the other half would be sold to women.
Well, sure. I guess part of the point of the conversation is we talk about the SHOT Show, the Dallas Fire Club show, all the shows that are going on, Houston Fire Club, Harrisburg show, all these programs that are going on. And these shows are just expanding and growing so big. The industry's getting so big, and it's not just wing ding things to sell. That I'll take a little exception to some of that junk. But I mean, it's not just that everybody's got something they want to sell, but there's more people. The number of hunters and that was something that was not the norm before COVID. That was not the norm. The numbers were going down, and now we see a little bit of a rise, and that's good news.
It really is. And I think as people have gotten into the outdoors and realized how good venison is and how good wild-caught fish or taking birds or whatever it is, and how much fun it is to be out there because you can share it with friends and family, and you can share the meat with friends and family as well, too. As that's come into play, I think we're going to see the retention of all those folks that thought, well, maybe I'll try it and see what I think. And I think most of them, from what I can get in terms of data, most of those folks are staying in the outdoors as far as hunting and fishing, and they're introducing others as well, too.
All right, but now here's my deal. Maybe I'm an enigma or something, because to me, it is imperative to know why. Why does this work? How can we sit here in 2023 and have this abundance of wildlife where everybody who wants to go hunting and fishing, if you can find the access, if you can get the access to go do it, you can go do it. And people should be cognizant of knowing why these wildlife populations exist. The North American wildlife model is to me, somebody missed a boat ages ago, and this is something that we really need to preach to people, because if we want to keep it, right now, the Pittman-Roberts Act, which finances so much of this, is under attack that they want to take that money and go do something else. People need to know how this conservation model has worked since 1937 so that wildlife conservation stays intact.
Herman, you're exactly right. And there are very few people, I think, have any realization that even with the Pittman-Robertson Act, there's also the Dingell-Johnson Act, which covers the fishing side of things. But with the Pittman-Robertson Act, the hunters, the outdoors people, asked to have an excise tax put upon guns and ammo and things having to do with hunting. And that money then it comes into the government, and then it's distributed to the different states, basically based upon the number of hunting license each state sells. So there's an apportionment that comes into all, is how they get that portion, if you will. So the more hunters and fishermen there are, the more money is going to be coming back to the state. The scary part is we're living in a very urban situation right now, and a lot of people don't know about how this happens. They just assume that, it's a general fund money. It's not. It comes from hunters and fishermen who pay for conservation. And to me, the way to spread the word is just like what you're doing right here, is going to the grassroots and letting people know through radio shows, through the writing that you do, through the personal contact that you have with people, kind of explain how this came about and how it continues. The North American model is a fantastic model for wildlife, and it works here in North America. There may be another country, it may not work as well because it's a whole lot of different situations. But the North American model works extremely well here, and it's something that we need to just not beat people over the head with, but we need to let everybody know that we possibly can through whatever means that is. And that includes sitting on a stump somewhere and telling the story maybe and getting somebody involved. And next thing you know, you can explain why there are still white-tailed deer, why there still are turkeys, while we have desert bighorn sheep and all those other kind of things. And it's because of the dollars paid by hunters to pay for the conservation, the wildlife conservation. Wildlife conservation or conservation is not the saving of, it's the wise use of.
Right.
And so to me, that's an important part that we need to explain as well too, is that the way you save wildlife is not by trying to cut out hunting or trying to limit certain things. It comes about because it's paid for by dollars spent by sportsmen and sportswomen.
Right. It's scientific conservation done through animal husbandry. That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line. It truly is. It's a sustainable thing that we can carry on throughout the ages if we do it properly. But without hunting on most of these wildlife species, there would be no wildlife anymore. Right. They would go by the wayside. So if you love the outdoors, and you love even seeing butterflies, which I like to do, the reason those butterflies are there because we're properly managing that habitat in terms of diversification, in terms of plant species, but also in terms of animal species. So, if you love butterflies, you love songbirds, thank a hunter because that's the reason they're there.
All right, we're out of time. Thank you, Larry.
My pleasure. Thank you, Herman.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed it this morning. This weekend's edition has also been brought to us by Shaw's Bend Social Club, country club for folks who don't have a country club. Folks, hope you enjoyed it this morning. Y'all just remember, pretty much any day is sure a good day to be out in the woods.